Shalom from Jerusalem. This is TV7's daily update. And in today's edition, we're going to focus on a number of developments. A very large $35 billion deal has been signed between Jerusalem and Cairo with American brokerage and a lot of American pressure at that, considering the fact that Chevron, the multinational corporation, is a large party to this deal. We will discuss that briefly. We'll also discuss the signing today of yet an expansion to the already signed deal between Germany and Israel on granting Germany more interceptors for its Arrow system, recently deployed by the Bundeswehr. And of course, the situation continues to be quite tense between Israel and Lebanon in particular. We saw a couple of strikes today against the Iranian proxy Hezbollah. Where this may lead to, we may have to dissect further during today's program. And of course, Central Command has hosted a very large meeting in Doha at a time when there are reports about the Department of War in the United States contemplating on whether or not to integrate Central Command together with European Command and what that may mean for Israel and the Middle East at large. But before all that, let's introduce our experts for today, to include TV7's editor-at-large, Mr. Amir Oren. Next to him, we have Brigadier General in Reserve Doron Gavish, formerly the commander of the Israeli Air and Missile Defense. And last but certainly not least, retired Brigadier General Mark Emmett, formerly an Assistant Secretary of State for Political and Military Affairs, among others. It's great to see all three of you, and I'd like to start with you, Mr. Oren. A large energy deal, actually the largest in Israel's history, to include significant exports of gas from Israel to Egypt, multi-year arrangement that will also facilitate a transit to continental Europe through LNG. What can you tell us about that?
So that last element, which you noted, is probably the most important part of the deal, because it is not really an Egyptian-Israeli deal. It is an Israeli move through the American company you mentioned, Chevron, to Egypt for transshipment to Europe, which means, by the way, that European energy security will be bolstered, and the dependence on Russian oil and gas or Russian pipelines will be lessened. Now, in Israel, there has been, and there still is, quite a heated debate regarding the gas reserves. Most experts, including those who were the first to find these reserves in the Mediterranean approximately 16 years ago, are now predicting that in 20 years' time, there will be no more such reserves, and that Israel should take care regarding its own energy security for the next 40 or 50 years, not only until 2045 or so. And of course, there is always the possibility that regime change in Egypt could threaten both the relationship and these particular commercial actions. But right now, it does seem like a bonanza for the Israeli taxpayer, and we will have to see whether the predictions will materialize. One more asterisk: Chevron is, of course, also involved in Venezuelan oil. So maybe this is going to lessen Chevron's focus on Latin America, which is one element in the Trump administration's policy.
Indeed. Well, Chevron is a majority owner of the Leviathan, roughly 40% stake in Israel's offshore gas reservoir, and it's going to make a lot of corporate income out of this deal. Next to Israel's state, going to gain roughly 50%, give or take, $18 billion that will come into Israel's coffers. And of course, we do need to take into account that an American multinational corporation will be the operator of this whole infrastructure at a time when Egypt does need more sources of revenue in order to bolster its own economy, something that Europe, the United States, Israel, and others have been working to achieve over the course of many years now. But next to that, there is yet another very significant deal. $3.1 billion is the expansion of the deal for the additional production of interceptors for the Arrow 3 system that was deployed in Germany. The Bundestag approved it yesterday. Today, the signing ceremony took place between the German Defense Ministry and the Israeli Defense Ministry. And for that, General Gavish, I'd like to hear your take on this, since this system you've been quite familiar with for many years now.
Well, indeed, Jonathan, this is a very serious move made by Germany to purchase the Arrow 3 system. And of course, it is not only the system, you need also interceptors in order to be effective with it. I think this is really, Germany in a way are leading Europe by showing their seriousness about protecting their own land and, of course, the continent by purchasing a significant air defense systems. We know that there are some other countries around, like Finland and others, which already are into the same idea of purchasing systems, but we know that the Germans are leading it, and now we see the second step of it. We have to remember that the Arrow 3 is what we call an upper tier system. It intercepts a very long range missiles that would be threatening Germany, and I think it is a very important step for the defense of Germany and for the defense of Europe.
In defense of NATO allies, partners throughout continental Europe, naturally this has a very significant boost to European security in that context. Just for context, this would grant Germany the capacity to intercept ballistic missiles emanating out of potentially Russia or other enemy countries or adversaries throughout the world. But this...
If I may add, Jonathan, maybe one sentence, is that the decision to buy the system was made by Germany before the war. But now, after the war, they know that the system that they bought is fully combat approved. The success of the Arrow 3 in this war was a very high one, a very significant one on the defense of Israel. So it is not only a system that they bought, which presumably knows how to intercept those threats. We know now that this system is fully combat-proof.
A combat-tested system, indeed. $6.5 billion altogether, both the initial procurement roughly 2 years ago, as well as the enlargement of the interceptor arsenal that the Germans are now procuring, is the largest defense contract that Israel has secured over its history. So it's quite significant. Now, General Kimmett, there are apparently reports that European Command and Central Command may merge together, something that the Department of War is considering. There are a couple of reports on this, including by the Washington Post. What can you tell us about that? And wouldn't that be counterproductive to command and control when we're talking about the varying types of threats emanating out of both European Command as well as Central Command?
Yeah, first, let me note that the United States remains disappointed that Germany chose the Arrow system over the Patriot system. We have found the Patriot system to be far more reliable in combat and far more battle tested. Arrow does have some unique capabilities, but it would have been nice to see that money come into the United States.
In the eye
Now,
of the
let's go
beholder,
talk about the
General.
question you asked, which is, and I see you smiling. Um, let's talk about the issue. In fact, not only are they going to merge European Command and CENTCOM, but anticipate bringing AFRICOM into that as well. I think you hit on the concerns directly, which is span of control. Anybody that's ever worked with military forces before know that there's a limit to what your capability is when it comes to span of control. For example, we proudly said at CENTCOM that we had more direct engagement with the countries inside the area of responsibility than the State Department had, that any other department inside of the United States government had. And what I'm concerned about is if you take those three headquarters that will now be expected, that if merged, will now be expected to triple their customers, for lack of a better term. I think we're going to not only dilute the ability to influence those countries in security cooperation, but it obviously will be seen as a rebuff to greater security cooperation needs. So the United States Congress is already pushing back on this because they are the ones that had, for the most part, set up this structure of combatant commands in the 1986 Goldwater-Nichols Act. Now, on the other hand, I think the Department of War, Department of Defense will say, look, this is going to allow us to focus on the most important areas of responsibility. European Command, CENTCOM, AFRICOM are artifacts of the 20th century. We need to be focused on China. We need to be focused on the Monroe Doctrine of North and South America and Latin America. So the idea is you expand in Indo-PACOM, expand in what will be called America Command, and contract in terms of European Command, Central Command, AFRICOM. But like you, I'm worried about span of control.
Span of control, attention span. There are overlapping threats and challenges, of course, but nonetheless, those overlapping threats and challenges do demand collaboration between the commands rather than having just one command trying to deal with everything and having their attention span focused. It's basically overstretching one command rather than each one being focused. Go ahead, General.
Yeah, I would make one comment. I think that when you have a merged command, you can obviate the concerns that we had, for example, between Syria and Turkey, where we had the Central Command focused on promoting the SDF operating in northern Syria. At the same time, the European Command and their client Turkey were working against it. So those creases in the combatant commands have always been a problem. This would go a far way to obviate those concerns because there would be no creases. But that's about the only advantage I can see in this entire decision.
Right. It's an advantage and a disadvantage because you'd like to have varying opinions on different challenges from an American national security interest, obviously, perspective. But let's move to the next challenge at hand. We're talking about Lebanon. Mr. Oren, we hear strikes have been targeting elements of the Iranian proxy Hezbollah earlier today. Give us a little bit of data on that.
It's really more of the same. We could have rerun the other day's show or even last week's show without our viewers and listeners noticing that it's a new day, because up to now, Israel has managed to strike targets at will without Hezbollah escalating into a full-scale confrontation. And obviously, we are all waiting to see what comes out of the Trump-Netanyahu meeting, especially after Ambassador Tom Barak has met Netanyahu earlier this week, emerging from the meeting saying it was productive or constructive, which is diplomatese for some arguments regarding both Syria and Lebanon. So this is above Ambassador Barak's pay grade. We'll have to wait for another 10 days or so to find out whether Israel will keep the pressure on the Lebanese government to keep the pressure on Hezbollah, or whether it will be asked to relent.
We're dealing here right now also with a race in which Hezbollah is working tirelessly to rearm itself, prepare itself for a future round of hostilities, while Israel obviously is working to degrade those efforts and its various capabilities to frustrate a potential even wider escalation in the future as it has altered its doctrine moving forward. But at the same time, Israel is also preparing itself and getting ready for a potential future confrontation. So this is really a race. And General Gavish, when we're looking at those type of races, I mean, where does it end, and at what point does it start the next, or the rather transition into the next phase?
Well, you're right, Jonathan. This is the $1 million question, probably when exactly is this point, and mainly how do you react to it? But allow me, I just can't without commenting of General's Kimen's statement with regard to the PEC 3 to say that those are not a competing systems. The Euro 3 is way up, higher tier system. The PEC 3 is a medium, I would say, range system, and we have to remember that the Germans already purchased the PEC 3. So it's okay. We can both, I would say, be very happy with it, and also remember that the Aero 3 is being developed together with the U.S. And with the approval of U.S. This whole deal was done. So I think we're good there. Going back to your direct question, of course, this is something that Israel is always looking at, mainly with regards to Lebanon, but not only Lebanon. It is also relevant to Syria and to Iran. And unfortunately, we see that also Iran and its proxy are continuously rearming themselves with one aim, which is Israel. This is, of course, a question that we are continuously asking ourselves. Currently, we saw some strikes, as you just mentioned before, being done by Israel. But it is not only a matter of strikes, and it is really something much more strategic. And the big question, once again, it's the Lebanese government. It's statements again and again that he wants to disarm the Lebanese, the Hezbollah in Lebanon, but unfortunately we don't see it happening very effectively. And from the other side, we see the statement coming from the Hezbollah and what they are doing. So going back to your question, this is a decision that would have to make by Israel. And I think that from the strategic point of view, if there is something that we've learned from the 7th of October, is not to allow our enemies to hold capabilities that would be endangering Israel. So this would say, but I don't think that we could wait for too long time for things to happen, and for sure not to allow the Hezbollah to grow as a threat.
Absolutely. Well, according to the reports emanating out of Lebanon, two of those who were struck were of Syrian nationality. Syrians collaborating with the Iranian proxy Hezbollah, something that also needs to be taken into account. With that being said, General Kimmett, I'd like to move to the Syrian arena. Since a couple of days ago, of course, we had the murder or the killing of three American nationals, to include two members of the Iowa National Guard and one interpreter contractor doing their duty as part of U.S. Central Command's Operation Inherent Resolve, and three others sustained also injuries. This, of course, was perpetrated by no other than a member of the Internal Security Services, which is regarded as the loyal section of the Ahmed al-Shara government in Damascus. Undoubtedly a blow for what the United States is trying to achieve in Syria. But nonetheless, in a cooperative endeavor with ranks that cannot truly be vetted, since they all would come out as affiliated to Al Qaeda or Islamic State in one way or another, what can really be done differently in order to avoid such a situation in the future?
Well, first of all, this is a green on blue incident. There's no doubt about it. And I would say that this is not unique to Syria. We've had these types of green on blue incidents. We almost lost a four-star general in Afghanistan from a green on blue incident, and we've certainly had the same problem in Iraq as well. Not every TERP or assistant or SME that we bring on can ever be fully vetted. It's just part of the battlefield geometry that if you're going to use partners, even partner forces from other countries, there's always a chance that they could go green on blue on you. I don't think it should indict or change the policy that the United States has right now with regards to the al-Shara force. I think there are many other reasons that we shouldn't be working with al-Shara, but a green on blue incident, while necessary to review, is not a structural issue that should cause us to change our policy at this point. It's unfortunate to say those families certainly don't believe that same way, but green on blue is part of the modern battlefield, and you can't stop it and eliminate it completely.
Indeed, just for the sake of our viewers, blue, our own forces, green, partner forces, and red is enemy forces. But General, I will come back to the latter part of my question. How can such a situation be avoidable in the future if you cannot really vet those who are taking an active role in the ranks of the Damascus regime?
Jonathan, as I said in the earlier comments, you can never be certain that your partner forces are 100% on your side. These types of incidents are going to happen whether you're in Afghanistan, Iraq, or Syria. It's just part of the nature of security cooperation with partner forces. We had the problem where in Afghanistan where Taliban were able to turn to one of our partner forces and said, if you don't do something at that meeting, we're going to chop the heads off your wives and we're going to chop the heads off your children. And of course, with that type of coercion, how are they going to respond? So the way you mitigate this is not by expecting that a total vetting will reveal this, but by taking the appropriate force protection measures as a blue force to ensure and expect at any time that somebody could go brown on you.
Indeed. Well, graphic as it may be, the situation in those countries is less than sympathetic to civilized societies. Uh, Mr. Oren, we have run out of time, basically. We have roughly 1 minute for you to just give us the headline of what happened at the CENTCOM conference in Doha vis-a-vis the Gaza Strip.
Well, the reports are sketchy. We don't really know what took place, and even more importantly, what the follow-up will be. We have heard that Turkey was not invited because of an Israeli veto, but what is Israel going to say if other countries do send forces, but these forces stay outside of the yellow line and refuse to take part in armed patrols within Gaza on the western side of the yellow line for fear of clashing with Hamas? We are going to have a UNIFIL situation once again, but in Gaza rather than in Lebanon. And if that's the case, unfortunately, Hamas will survive and may even prevail.
Well, we will touch on this point tomorrow, as we will have the makeup of the same panel exactly. I will like to immediately also thank General Kimmett, General Gavish, and Mr. Oren for all of your insights today, and to thank all of you at home as well. Until our next edition. Shalom from Jerusalem.
My name is Doron Gavish, and my background, 30 years of serving in the Israeli Air Force. My last job, I was the commander of the Israeli Air and Missile Defense during the introduction of the Iron Dome to the defense of Israel. All of this allows me really to be part of the team here in TV7. It is super important to have such a platform. We talk about the global situation, we talk about Israel, and those different angles which are relevant to the discussion.
Jerusalem Studio, now available on Spotify.